Good evening and welcome to this next episode in our study of Dave Ramsey's book called Plan B. I've shown it to you many times before, but here it is, Plan B. And if you haven't obtained it yet, I suggest that you do, because it's a very good little book to have on your shelf or your coffee table or your nightstand. The chapters in it are very short and very easy to read, so yeah, this is an extremely good book to have in your library. So today we are starting a new chapter. It's on page 54 if you have your copy available, and it's the Beatitude from Matthew 5 verse 9. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God. So today is a sort of a little introduction. We'll talk a little bit about who are these people who are going to be called the children of God, and aren't really everybody children of God, because He created us all. So why aren't we all called children of God? And the other obvious key word in there is the peacemakers, of course. I think we can all agree that there's way too much conflict in the world. In our families, in our communities, in our countries, between our countries, between ethnic groups, all kinds of conflicts. It really could be avoided if we all were to listen to Jesus. So first a little bit here, Dave Andrews goes into talking about the children of God. And he kind of gives them as an example in a negative kind of way that these are not the children of God. These guys are never going to be called the children of God, even though they were created by Him. So let's just read from the beginning. Many devotees of many different religious traditions claim to be the children of God. And many of these so-called children of God slaughter their brothers and sisters in the name of God. Christians, Muslims, and Jews use the violence advocated in the Hebrew Bible to justify their violence. And we see that over and over again, not just in violence, but also people will use the Bible to make a point that fits their philosophy or their opinion, and use the Bible to hammer that home with other people. And I don't think that was ever the intention when this was written. Muslims and Jews use the violence advocated in the Hebrew Bible to justify their violence. After all, they say, Moses says, if there's a serious injury, you have to take life for life. Eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, bruise for bruise. And that's from Exodus 21, verses 23 to 25. So, the Old Testament, the Hebrew Bible, does give some restrictions on what you can do. For example, you can't, if you knock out one of my teeth, I can't go back and knock out two of yours. So it's kind of like a sort of fairness that has to be measured accurate, extremely accurate. If you just go over one little bit, then you're in trouble. And we all know that that is impossible. So that kind of fairness is not what Jesus is talking about when he says, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God." Dave Andrews goes on here and says, before condemning others, Christians should note that in the past 1,000 years, there have been more devastating wars among Christian states fighting each other than between Christian and Muslim states. And predominantly Christian states have killed more Jews and Muslims than predominantly Muslim states have killed Christians and Jews. So here we're talking about, again, like a fairness aspect. Like if you kill 10,000 of our people, then we can not go and kill 10,001 of yours. It has to be the same number. It's pretty amazing that anybody would actually buy into that kind of justice. But it did. Lots of people do still. And by the way, I wanted to go back to the Exodus 21, 23 to 25, where it talks about an eye for an eye, and a foot for a foot, a life for a life, tooth for tooth. We have been in a time where there haven't really been a lot of executions of criminals. Maybe they have, I don't know, just don't know. But suddenly, people are starting to talk about it again. And just recently, a fella, I think his name was Quentin Jones, was executed in a Texas prison. And that was over the objection of the family of the victim. So the state decided to go ahead and execute him, even though the family did not want that to happen. And in South Carolina right now there are 2 people scheduled to be executed this month. The new thing about it in South Carolina is that prisoners get to choose whether they want to be executed by electrocution or by a firing squad. And in one other state, I think Arizona, is revamping their gas chamber. So it's we are in an era or in a culture, a period of time where this kind of thinking is coming back in some significant force. So this is what Jesus answers to all that. He says, even though he treated the Hebrew Bible, that's what Dave Andrews writes, even though he treated the Hebrew Bible, this is the same as our Old Testament, as his authority, and he does that in Matthew 5, 17 to 20. But he interpreted the law according to the prophets, especially Isaiah, whom he quoted at the start of his ministry, and you can read about that in Luke 4. Isaiah is an interesting prophet. I heard some time ago a prominent Greek scholar, I think, who was giving a speech on Isaiah's ministry, that Isaiah is an intellectual. In fact, A lot of the words that he's using don't appear anywhere else in the literature. So we don't really know what all of it means. Maybe it doesn't matter, maybe it does. But it's interesting that we have this very important piece of literature that Jesus followed, and we should too. Clearly, this was a very important message that Jesus was telling us. Okay, so Jesus' devotion to peacemaking was inspired by Isaiah's vision for peace. I have to keep refreshing this screen because it keeps dimming out, and I don't know if it's still going to record if it does that. So Isaiah has a special vision for peace, and to talk to Jesus, and he wants to let us know about that. Jesus knew by heart how beautiful on the mountain are the feet of those who bring good news, who proclaim peace. And that's Isaiah 52, verse 7. So Jesus' devotion to peacemaking was inspired by Isaiah's vision for peace. Jesus knew by heart how beautiful on the mountains are the feet of those who bring good news, who proclaim peace. He knew a bringer of good news will not shout or cry out, or raise his voice in streets, or a bruised reed he will not break, and a smoldering wick he will not quench. And that's in Isaiah 42, verse 2. So Isaiah's prayer for the people is, no longer will violence be heard in our land, nor ruin or destruction within our borders. It's in Isaiah 60, verse 18. So this is the vision of Isaiah that Jesus adopts, and that's what's informing all that he does from this point on. So it pays for us to pay attention to that. We're going to end here because now the text kind of gets into a different segment where he talks about the Lamb of God. Jesus is the Lamb of God. We know we've heard about him as the shepherd, but here he's going to be talked about as the Lamb of God. But we will do that next week, and so thank you for coming, and I look forward to being with you next week in this chapter. Have a good week.